All right, we made it. It's been a long, long draft process. I streamed for a little over 16 and a half hours in total, but we got to the end. All 259 picks made, three of them going to the Seattle Seahawks. So now that we've had the opportunity to really think over these selections of Tre Brown and Stone Forsythe, I want to give a little bit more than just my snap reaction. I want to actually talk about this in a more analytical way because I can tell you that my opinion of the Tre Brown pick has shifted somewhat since I shot the reaction video. The Stone Forsythe thing hasn't really changed, but that's fine. I was completely happy then, I'm completely happy now. So, in the fourth round, after a small trade back with Tampa. Well, okay, I'll start with the trade because we're talking about all of day three in this video. So we made a trade, we moved down 7 spots and picked up a sixth rounder. In terms of pure value, the Buccaneers won the trade by a few points, but not by enough to really care. We decided we could afford to trade down at that spot, so we did it. It's fine. I'd give the trade like a C. It's just, fine. C, C plus. And then we got Tre Brown, cornerback from Oklahoma. Now, I scouted a lot of cornerbacks in this offseason. I liked a lot of the cornerbacks in this draft. Tre Brown was not one of them. I looked at his height and immediately went, I don't think this is the guy for me. Let's talk about that. Tre Brown is 5'10", 186 pounds, not very big. So, me being somebody who is somewhat familiar with what Pete Carroll likes to do at the cornerback spot, especially outside corner, I thought he wanted somebody who was going to be at least 2 inches bigger than that. Looks like that's not the case. But before we get into the nitty gritty of that, let's take a look at Tre Brown, the player, independent of any of the discussions of how he's going to be used. So here's Tre Brown. Starting with his stats, he had a 4-year career at Oklahoma, played all 4 years, not a ton as a freshman, but some. As a sophomore in 2018, this is kind of interesting. He had 6 tackles for loss and 2 sacks and 12 pass deflections. That's a very interesting stat line to put up as a cornerback. 6 tackles for loss, pretty impressive. And then in 2020, he started turning into a little bit more of a ball hawk. He had 3 interceptions, only 6 pass deflections, but he started taking the ball away. He built on his 1 career interception over his first 3 years. Yeah, stats seem to check out. As much as you can learn from a basic box score, that's what I can say about Tre Brown. So that's not so interesting. What's interesting is what kind of player is he? Let's go to the Draft Network to take a look at his player profile. So here's what the Draft Network said about Tre Brown. Playing in 51 career games at Oklahoma, Tre Brown has spent all of his career as an outside cornerback. Huh. Okay. Possessing an aggressive demeanor overall, he isn't shy with wanting to mix things up at the line of scrimmage, but most notably in route stems. Sounds pretty Seahawky to me. His grabby nature of wanting to hang on to matchups will need to be a coaching point that needs to be resolved. Very Seahawky. maybe more 5, 6, 7 years ago, but still. With lots of twitch at the line of scrimmage, he's able to successfully mirror a lot of wideouts. Okay, cool. Brown's biggest challenges come in his route stems, where he doesn't possess the upper body strength necessary in order to constantly compete and win at the catch point. Likely best suited as a nickel defender. Aww. It's a gamble that some team will have to make with Brown considering that he hasn't played the position from the inside before. Ideal role, developmental nickel corner with some outside capabilities. So, when we took this guy, I didn't know. Are we going to play him at nickel? If so, what are we doing with Amadi? What are we doing with Blair? What are we doing with these other guys on the roster who could play nickel like Demarius Randall? What's the plan here? Are we going to play him at outside? Do you know he's only 5'10"? If you do, are you okay with that now? Did the DJ Reed experience really change your philosophy? Well, it seems like that ended up being the case because Carroll did a press conference right after taking the third and final pick of this draft. And he basically said, yeah, DJ Reed changed the way I look at corners to a certain extent, and we brought Tre Brown here to play on the outside. So let it be known that as of right now, a few hours after drafting Tre Brown, the Seahawks have announced their intention to play him on the outside. So I'm good. I'm not guaranteeing it's going to work. I'm not guaranteeing he's going to be good, but I'm good. If Carroll thinks he can make it work, then I'm willing to let him have that. It's not like I'm obsessed with tall corners. I thought he was. So if he feels like I'm over that, I can do work with a smaller corner on the outside, I'm going to give him a shot. Okay, if you take a look at his scouting report on Pro Football Network, you can read the whole thing if you want to, but here's some interesting stuff. His wingspan is 72 and a quarter inches, which is a lot less than typical Carroll corners. So very interesting there. All right, so scouting report from Tony Pauline, 3-year starter who also was a major contributor as a kick returner. That's also notable, by the way. He was a very good kick returner as a sophomore. I don't know if we're going to have him do that, but it's notable. Small but feisty corner with solid ball skills. Quick flipping his hips in transition, tracks the pass in the air, and has a nice move to the throw. Stays on the receiver's hip out of breaks, has an explosive burst out of his plant, and dives around the field to break up passes. Quick to read and diagnose, and fires up the field defending screen passes or the run. That all sounds pretty good to me. Negatives: lacks size and gets physically beaten by bigger receivers. Must improve the consistency of his back pedal. Not a stout tackler. Gets grabby at times. The not a good tackler thing is not something that we're super excited about. So hopefully that's something he can work on. But it sounds like this guy is basically another DJ Reed. Maybe he can be a better version of DJ Reed because he was actually drafted relatively high, somewhat high in the draft. Their final analysis here: Brown lacks great size, but is a feisty corner who could line up in dime packages and be an asset as a return specialist in the NFL. So I find this so interesting. That is two credible draft scouting websites that think that Tre Brown will play nickel in the NFL, or essentially saying he's going to be a nickel corner. And they both seem like they're wrong because Carroll has said he's playing outside here. He's put it out there. Tre Brown's going to be an outside corner here. So that's very interesting. As for whether or not Tre Brown is going to be able to contribute as a rookie, I give him a chance. If you look at the guys he's competing against, and we'll go over the roster in the coming days, but Tre Brown is going to be competing for a starting job with probably not DJ Reed, because DJ Reed seems pretty locked in, but Ahkello Witherspoon. He could take his job. Witherspoon could easily blow up in our face here. Guys like Ryan Neal, guys like Trey Flowers, Pierre Desir, Demarius Randall. I'm not believing any of those guys are surefire, solid starters for the Seahawks. So don't be surprised if Trey Flowers makes a serious push for the starting job. And at worst, he's going to push the guys who do get the starting job to work harder, right? So I'm on board with this. I was pretty after we made the pick because I was thinking he's a nickel corner. But it looks like we are good with him playing outside, and it looks like that's what he did in college. So I'm going to be good with this one. I like the pick. There are a couple players I would have rather had there, but at this point, Israel Mukamu, either there's something wrong with him or we're just not into that kind of corner anymore. I don't know. Okay. Next up, we took Stone Forsythe, and I don't think I need to defend this pick or evaluate this pick that much. This was just a big W. We traded up a few spots, used our 7th round pick to trade up with the Bears. We moved up, I think, like 9 spots and gave up a late 7th rounder. That trade is a win. That trade is great. We won it by 2.5 to 3 points, which is not a lot, but when you're down at that point in the draft, every little point, like, it adds up. So Stone Forsythe ended up being the pick at 217. This is a guy I actually scouted. This is a guy who I thought was going to go in the 4th, maybe 5th round, so we got great value. There were some websites that said he was going to be Third rounder, a couple even said second rounder. So, whatever you think of this player personally, the value is rock solid. So, offensive tackle from Florida, he's 6'8", which is very interesting and could be a little dangerous as well. But he's already got a 315-pound frame. And let's take a look at his scouting report here. Florida offensive tackle Stone Forsythe projects as a viable starting caliber offensive tackle at the pro level. He started the final 25 games of his career with the Florida Gators at left tackle, but he has taken reps on the right side of the line as well, and that added flexibility should afford teams more appeal as a potential swing tackle early in his career while he works on some of the finer points of his game. Ding, 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 ding. We have a guy who could be the heir apparent to Dwayne Brown, could be the replacement for Brandon Shell, could be the replacement for George Fant in terms of being the swing tackle. So this guy has a chance to get on the field a little bit as a rookie one way or the other, and one way or the other should be able to be a significant contributor going forward beyond that. Forsythe brings a smooth cadence to the field and is quite controlled in his pass sets, willing to take depth on his vertical sets and trusting his technique to maintain integrity on the edge or alternatively snap out of his stance to challenge you early at the line of scrimmage. You'd like to see more consistency with his leverage, but he's a looming frame at 6'8", and there's an inevitability to him playing higher than most defenders at first contact. So he seems like he's a really good pass protector. He can do good against bull rushers and speed rushers. More so bull rushers, but it seems like he's a generally good all-around pass protector. And this is what I was saying about his height. He does need to learn how to get a little lower, but that's something that you will see in a lot of taller offensive linemen. He does need to learn how to play low enough to not commit illegal hands to the face on every play and lets defenders get beneath him, but he has probably a year to work on it. Fortunately, at 315 pounds, Forsythe does have the natural strength in his frame to sit down on outside pass rushers who look to bull him back into the lap of a quarterback. Ideally, this isn't a day one starter, but the ceiling is there for Forsythe to make an impact, and there is little reason to think he couldn't fit in any number of offensive systems across the league, regardless of core principles and ideologies. Ideal role, developmental starting offensive tackle. Okay, so to sum it up, if I had to kind of try to figure out exactly how to sum this up in a few sentences, Forsythe is better at pass protection than he is at run blocking, which I think is good for a tackle. I think that's what you want. I think that he's somebody who may need a year to pick up some technique in terms of leverage and getting low enough. And one concern I have, if I have any concern about Stone Forsythe, he may not be an amazing fit for this offense because I suspect we will be asking our offensive linemen to play on the move and play in space a lot. Stone, I haven't seen any reason to believe he can't do it, but I haven't seen a lot of reason to believe that he can do it. Actually, this scouting report makes mention scheme fit for him is pass-heavy offensive attack with consistent launch point from the pocket. That tells me he's more like somebody who just wants to block the guy in front of him. So, can he play on the move? Can he play in space? He's got a year to figure it out. But even if it doesn't work out, the value here was too good to pass up. He was a sixth-round pick. Sixth-round picks don't pan out all the time. At least this guy has a high ceiling. The Pro Football Network has their own scouting report on him. I thought I'd go ahead and take a look at that. Large college left tackle who projects to the right side at the next level, which I agree with. I think he's probably going to be a right tackle more than a left tackle in the NFL. So look for this guy to replace Brandon Shell at some point, maybe in 2 years, maybe sometime late next year. Patient, stays square, and shows strength at the point. Anchors in pass protection, turns defenders from the action, and seals open running lanes. Keeps his head on a swivel, correctly places his hands into defenders, and works through the whistle. Makes solid use of angles and body positioning. Negatives are lacks footwork off the edge, struggles to adjust and pick up blitzes, exploited by speed rushers. Analysis. Forsythe has next level size, but is limited to a small area and comes with marginal upside. He is a backup at right tackle or guard for a power gap offense. So that's kind of the other perspective on Forsythe. Pro Football Network didn't like him as much. The Draft Network thought he was a third round pick. They really liked him. So I wanted to offer the alternative perspective, kind of. But Stone Forsythe to me was a big W, and I'm not convinced. I am not convinced he's going to be a great fit for our system. I'm not convinced he's ever going to be a dominant starter, but the potential is there, and in the sixth round, that potential is all you can ask for. So, look, we got ourselves a potential starting cornerback in the fourth, a guy who I think has a very good chance to challenge for a starting job as a rookie. Carroll's done it before. He can do it again. And we got a guy in Stone Forsythe who I don't expect to start as a rookie. In fact, I would not be shocked if he spent at least the first part of his rookie season on the practice squad. But he might get into games if there are injuries and we have to call him up. He might get into games if he develops quickly enough to overtake somebody like a Jamarco Jones or Cedric Ogbuehi. And even if that doesn't happen, you may see him get into games as a swing tackle at some point. We know we like to do that. We did that all the time with George Fant. So we got two starters out of this draft, I think, or at least two guys who have a very good chance to start. And then we got this guy who I don't think he's going to start day one. I really don't. I think Shell's better than him right now and will be for at least another year. But I like it. So that's the draft. Now we move on to UDFA. I'm going to make a separate video about that, but this was my day 3 Seahawks draft summary. I like both picks. I love Stone Forsythe. Tre Brown, I have a couple of questions about. Can he actually do it? Can he play outside in the NFL at a 5'10 frame? Carroll thinks he can. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt there, but I'm not 100% convinced, so we'll see. But see you guys later tonight. Peace out. Go Hawks. Fun day. Pretty good day for the Seahawks, I think. What did you think? Let me know in the comments. I'm out.